All right, we're going to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem, Rakam Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and shalom to all the Akim out there pushing the word of sincerity and the truth. It's the brothers from GMS Atlanta. You know, we got a lesson going into the tabernacle or the temple that's being reestablished now. All right, because when you go into the history, which of course majority of brothers is familiar with, you know, especially coming into the knowledge, 70 AD, you had Titus, the son of Vespasian, which shattered the temple. All right, in that time, they shattered the temple, and you had Jews that fled to the four corners, and that's where you have the Ark of Titus. And with the Ark of Titus, when you look into the engraved images, it shows Edomites, which were Romans, actually running and leaving the temple with all kind of precious gold, silvers, metals, the menorahs, all right, and all the holy things that was reestablished in those temples. And the temple was the major dwelling quarters that the Most High had amongst men, so that his spirit could dwell amongst them. And that got destroyed with the priesthood and various other things. All these different things got shattered in that time frame. So what do we have now? We have a spiritual tabernacle, a spiritual temple, and a spiritual priesthood. And the anointing, or excuse me, the atonement was Yahweh Shai. And before we go into the, you know, the everything fulfilling itself in the spirit of Yahweh Shai, we're going to really go into the time of Exodus. All right, us leaving the time of Exodus, and I have this book entitled Bible Charts, Maps, and Timelines. And in this book, it has all kind of different events from Genesis to Revelations. It has timelines, of course. It has maps. You know, it has all kind of different things going into the name of the Lord and various other things. It's a very, very edifying book. Yeah. You know, so I'm in the section where it goes into Exodus, and as brothers is familiar with us leaving Exodus, that's where we really established the tabernacle. The tabernacle was basically a tent, a major tent in the wilderness, where the Most High had Moses and Aaron through the mouth of the Most High established, and he had the two artificers or crafters, which was Bezalel and Ahaloab, to create these different things. When you read in Exodus, all right, it speaks about creating the menorah, creating the tabernacle, all right, creating various things, which I have the list, and I'm gonna go ahead and read it, and I'm gonna go into it, you know, in the spirit of things. So it says keys to the tabernacle. One, I'm not gonna read all of them. I'm just gonna read the main points, because these are all the things that was dwelt in the tabernacle, which was the tabernacle, the high priest in his holy garments. Because what was the purpose of the high priest? The high priests were the ones, and the priesthood on the whole was the ones that would do the atonement for the nation of Israel. When the nation of Israel were to go off, they would actually have to present a bullock, a ram, turtle dove, you know, a lamb, a clean animal, and present it unto the priest. And the priest would actually slit the animal's neck, kill the animal, take the blood, and sprinkle the blood amongst the altar. And that would be the atonement for the nation of Israel. And you have various offerings, sin offerings, burnt offerings, wave offerings, and various others, you know. So that was the job of the priests. And the high priests, they were of a whole nother job, because they were the only ones that could enter into the Holy of Holies, which is the most holy area in the tabernacle. And if hopefully you brothers will be able to see it, because in this picture, you'll see the tabernacle, and then you'll see the Holy of Holies, where you have the Ark of the Covenant, the curtain, which is the veil, and then you have this massive size menorah, the table of showbread, and various other things. So I'm gonna keep going. It says the high priest in his holy garments, and you have the holy place, which I'm gonna read a little bit on the holy place. All right, it says the priest entered into the holy place daily to minister to the Lord. The table of showbread, which is the bread of the presence, stood on the right. The 7-branch golden lampstand stood on the left. The altar of incense stood in the holy place right in front of the veiled most holy place. All right, and you read that in Exodus, the 26th chapter and the 33rd verse. All right, and I'm gonna keep going. And you have the golden lampstand, which is the menorah. It says the lampstand was made of pure hammered gold, one solid piece. It had a central shaft with 6 branches, 3 on each side, making it a 7-branch lampstand. Each branch had knobs, flowers, and an almond-shaped bowl to hold pure olive oil. It was part of the priest's ministry to keep the lamp burning perpetually. Hey, and that's an upgrade in the spirit. I'm not going to go into it. Like I said, you know, all this is the representation of Yahweh Shai, and we represent that now in the spirit, this lampstand that's constantly burning, which is this word and this knowledge constantly illuminating in our spirits. But I want to, you know, I don't want to jump into it, but this is spiritual right here, showing that we don't even really need these physical things. After this thing got destroyed, we don't have to build a new temple. All right, it's a spiritual temple. But I'm going to keep going. It says the table of showbread, the altar of incense, the veil. You have the most holy place, which is the Holy of Holies, which I was just now speaking of. The Ark of the Covenant, the mercy seat, the gate of the court, the offerings, the court fence, the bronze altar, the bronze lever, the cloud, and the pillar of fire. And that's basically it for the most part. And I'm going to read a couple of scriptures because I want to really paint the picture to give the significance of each and every one of these proponents or components that actually were in this temple. So first we started with the tabernacle, which was another word for tabernacle is tent. That's the tent quarters where the Israelites were on the outside of the tabernacle, and they would go there so that they could actually be, you know, in the presence of the Most High. They would actually keep themselves sanctified through a blood sacrifice or an altar offering, so that they could keep holy and keep that one in unification with the Most High. So it says, matter of fact, I read the golden candlestick, or the golden lampstand, and the table of showbread. It says the table of showbread was made of shittim wood. It was overlaid with gold and had a crown of frame of gold around it, was as wide as a man's hand. So I'm gonna go jump a little bit to the main points. The carrying poles were made of shittim wood, overlaid with gold. Also made of pure gold were the dishes, pans, pitchers, and bowls. 12 loaves of bread were placed on the table, 6 in a row. Fresh bread was placed there every Sabbath. All right, verse 6. And the number 6, you have the altar of incense. And matter of fact, I'm gonna go to the main points, which I'm gonna go to this Exodus 26 and 31, and it's gonna be pertaining to the veil. It says the woven veil of blue, purple, and scarlet thread with designs of cherubim embroidered on it was hung on 4 pillars of acacia wood overlaid with gold. 4 gold hooks were put in 4 sockets of silver. The veil was hung from these and was a divider between the holy place and the most holy place. Exodus 26, 31 to 33. And I'm going to read that. This is Exodus 26 and 31. And thou shalt make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen of cunning work. With cherubim shall it be made, and thou shalt hang it upon 4 pillars of shittim wood, overlaid with gold. The hooks shall be of gold, upon the 4 sockets of silver. And thou shalt hang up the veil under the taches, that thou mayest bring in thither within the veil the ark of the testimony. And the veil shall divide unto you between the holy place and the most holy place. Right, and the most holy place was where the most holy individual, which was the high priest at that time, where he could only enter into. All right, no other individual but the high priest that came out of the loins of Aaron and his sons and the sons generations after were the only ones that had access into the Holy of Holies. All right. And thou shalt hang up the veil under the taches. And it was so holy that they had the veil that would actually separate. You couldn't even look in the inside. All right. It was only for the high priest to go into, enter in, and deal and deliberate in the spirit of the Most High and enter out. All right. It says, and thou shalt hang up the veil under the taches, that thou mayest bring it thither, which I just read that. Verse 34, and thou shalt put the mercy seat upon the ark of the testimony in the most holy place. All right, so you have all these different pieces and aspects of creation, so to speak, that the Most High told these individuals, like I said, Bezalel and Ahaloab, through the spirit of Moses, to put inside of this temple. These are the most holy things that were to be within this temple. All right, and everything signifies something different. Everything is here specifically and meticulously for a specific reason, for that time and also for times to come. The prophecy to fulfill itself, as Yahweh Shai said. Yahweh Shai said he's not come to destroy the law, but to fulfill. That's why you had during his time, which I'm going to jump a little bit, but during Yahweh Shai's time, he was speaking about the temple being destroyed and being reestablished. And they thought that Yahushua was a terrorist and he was coming to destroy the temple. But Yahushua was speaking of his spirit. All right, and that temple that really got destroyed was him, and he actually reestablished himself, showing that he was more spiritual and greater than the temple itself. Because after the temple torn asunder after Yahushua died, it didn't reestablish itself. All right, it torn asunder, and then it got plundered in 70 AD, and we don't have no temple now. So what temple can we go to where we have the high priest that's constantly atoning himself and sprinkling his blood upon the Holy of Holies, so to speak, and the Holy of Holies? Yahushua represents all these different things. All right, so I'm gonna read a little bit on number 9 with the Ark of the Covenant. Matter of fact, I want to read the two major importance. Matter of fact, I'll say 4 things that I'm gonna read, and then we're gonna go to the next part. It says, and this is under the most holy place. It says, also called the Holy of Holies, here resided the Ark of the Covenant. It was exactly 1/2 the length of the holy place. The Shekinah glory of the Most High rested upon the lid of the ark, which is the mercy seat. The high priest entered the most holy place once a year on the Day of Atonement to sprinkle blood on the mercy seat to atone for his sins and the people's sins. So that's a very important job. The priest would go in and they would sprinkle blood on the top of the mercy seat. That's where the cherubim stood, and which was during the Day of Atonement to atone for the whole nation. All right, and during the Day of Atonement every year, we don't have these different accesses. So how do we atone? Atone through the Spirit. All right. Number 9. I keep saying verse. Excuse me. Number 9. The Ark of the Covenant. The ark was made of acacia wood. It was overlaid with gold inside and out. A gold crown of molding was set around the hedge of the top. 4 gold rings, one on each leg, were placed for the carrying poles. The poles were acacia wood overlaid with gold. The mercy seat was set on top of the ark. All right, and I'm gonna read on that. I just read on the ark, so I'm gonna read on the mercy seat. The mercy seat was made of pure gold. It had a winged cherub on each side, facing each other with wings outstretched above them toward each other. The mercy seat was beaten or hammered from one solid piece of gold. It was placed above the ark. All right, and I'm gonna jump to, because you have next the gate of the court, and I'm gonna jump to the offerings. And the different offerings you have is a burnt offering, which was made of bull, sheep, goats, or birds. Leviticus 1 and 17.
I can get that.
Excuse me, Leviticus 1 and 1 through 17. You can get that. You can go ahead and get it.
Yeah.
Grain offerings, which is Leviticus 2 and 1 to verse 16. Peace offerings, which was a goat or a lamb, Leviticus 3 and 1 to verse 17. Sin offerings, which is a bull or a lamb, Leviticus 4 and 1 to verse 35. And a trespass offering, which is the female of the flock, lamb, goat, kid, or bird, or grain. All right, so those were those were the 5 different offerings that the Most High established that man was able to give to atone themselves. All right, because with the extension or basically being in the spirit of the Most High, everything takes an offering, man. You know, because the Most High is a holy individual. Just like when you deal with kings, a lot of times when you are going to see the king, you can't go empty-handed. Yeah. You have to bring some type of gift of treasure, gold, precious ointments, and various things just to even have access to dialogue with the king. So it's the same thing with the Most High. The Most High is the spiritual, and he's the most omnipotent king, the King of Kings.
Yeah.
All right, and it was established through a chain of command where Moses was the man. All right, Moses and Aaron were the men. All right, and through them, that's how Israel actually had access to the Most High. Yeah. Just like when Moses he went to the Mount 40 days and 40 nights. All right, and he received the 613 law, statutes, and commandments, which you have Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And he came back with those tablets of stone, and it spoke about how his face was shining so much that they had to put a veil on his face, man. All right, and through Moses, that's how the Israelites had access to the Most High. All right, not them personally. They couldn't personally go to the mount. Scriptures speak about how when they would actually come to see the Most High, they would actually be put to death. So Moses was a holy individual that could actually stand before the Most High and live. And you got that in Leviticus 1 and 1.
This is Leviticus 1 and 1. It says, and the Lord called unto Moses and spake unto him out of the tabernacle of the congregation, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, if any man of you bring an offering unto the Lord, ye shall bring your offering of the cattle, even of the herd and of the flock. If this offering be a burnt sacrifice of the herd, let him offer a male without blemish.
Right, so the burnt sacrifice had to be a male without blemish. And for the most part, all these different sacrifices had to be without blemish. The blemish represents an animal being basically unclean. A blemish was an image of uncleanliness. All right, so the Most High being the clean and pure individuals, in order to offer unto him, you have to offer a pure vessel. All right, keep going.
It says, he shall offer it of his own voluntary will at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation.
So you have to be willing to offer yourself. All right, it's not an involuntary thing, it's a voluntary. You volunteer to offer your substance, which you had unto the Most High. Keep going.
It says, let me start. It says, he shall offer it of his own voluntary will at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before Yahweh. And he shall put his hand upon the head.
Yeah, it speaks about the tabernacle. Going back to what we were saying, the tent. Now, did they actually go unto the tabernacle and offer it unto the Lord personally? No, they did it through the priests. That's the priest's job. That's why the priests, when you read the scriptures, especially during the time of, if I'm not mistaken, Joshua, when they started to get themselves established, it speaks about how they had the suburbs. All right, amongst the 12 tribes, you had the suburban area where the priests would live. The priests lived amongst each and every one of the 12 tribes. They didn't have their own personal inheritance, and their job was to be the ministers, to do these different jobs, keeping the atonement and atoning for the sins of the nation of Israel, whether they was in a tribe, whether they was in the land of Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Issachar, Naphtali, Dan, so on and so forth. All right, keep going.
It says, and he shall put his hand upon the head of the burnt offering, and it shall be accepted for him to make atonement for him. And he shall kill the bullock before Yahweh, and the priest. So,
5. I'll read it. Aaron's sons. You got it?
Yeah,
okay.
It says, Aaron's sons shall bring the blood and sprinkle the blood round about upon the altar that is by the door of the tabernacle of the congregation.
Right.
And he shall flay the burnt offering and cut it into pieces. And the sons of Aaron, the priest, shall put fire upon the altar and lay the wood in order upon the fire. And the priest, Aaron's sons, shall lay the parts, the head, and the fat in order upon the wood that is on the fire, which is upon the altar. But his inwards and his legs shall he wash in water, and the priest shall burn all on the altar to be a burnt sacrifice, an offering made by fire of a sweet savor unto the Lord.
Right. So you have the priests, and you going into the burnt offering. Like I said, is more offerings than the burnt offerings, which brothers is familiar with. Grain offerings, like I said, Leviticus 2. And brothers can read this when you get the time. We're not going to go through all these. We're just going to establish the first layout, which is this tabernacle. And we're going to go into the establishment of this whole thing being spiritual. So, you know, that's the main point. We're going to do a B-side, and we're going to touch more onto it, Lord willing. And if the Spirit permit, we may do a third part to really get into the fullness of it, because there's a lot of details and it's a lot of major importances in these different scriptures that goes into this tabernacle. All right. This tabernacle was always with us. It never left us, so to speak. And during the time of Moses, that was when the Most High gave him the tabernacle. Excuse me, not the tabernacle, the tablets of stone. That's right after they started to build the tabernacle and things of that nature. All right, and there was a time, of course, during 70 AD when it did depart from us, but now it's being reestablished spiritually, showing that the Most High, just like the scriptures speak about how the virgins will fall asleep, that will be the time that the Spirit of the Most High will be stripped away from us. And it speaks about how we would lose our heritage in Jeremiah 17, but this is the time where everything is coming back, and it's coming back upon spiritual grounds. It's established upon spirituality. We don't have these physical things. We don't have physical access to the temple. Hell, we don't have physical access to our land. You know, amongst all these different substances that it takes to actually be sanctified amongst in the eyes of the Most High. All right, so we're gonna go into it. Like I said, Lord willing, we'll do a B, and we possibly might do another third part to really get the fullness of this understanding. So we're gonna end it by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shah, by Hashem, Rakak Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom Makim.
Shalom.